Discover the touching moment a little girl asks, "Can you save her instead of me?" What happened? As the sirens shrieked closer, Sarah's heart dropped. The emergency room was a stage for chaos. Patients poured in, and her world briefly became a flurry of demands. She maneuvered through the sterile hallways with purpose, skill honed over years of dedication. But today was different. Today, a young girl named Mia was brought in, her small body broken and battered. Sarah's gut twisted with a familiar dread, but she pushed it aside, channeling every ounce of focus into the task ahead. Time melted away, moments blending into an overwhelming haze of medical jargon and beeping equipment. Yet, flickering in her peripheral vision was her daughter, Lily, perched in the waiting area, wide-eyed and anxious, her innocence teetering on the edge of understanding. A hushed conversation leaked from the doctors, each sharp word cutting deeper than the last, until it reached Lily's sensitive ears. Sarah stole a glance, her heart sinking as she saw her daughter absorbing the gravity of the situation. Then, without warning, Lily stood and approached, her small feet shuffling on the linoleum floor. Dread filled Sarah as she prepared for the question she hoped would never arrive. "Can you save her instead of me?" The words hung in the air, a simple yet devastating inquiry that crashed into Sarah like a tidal wave. In that moment, the reality of her dual existence, the overworked nurse and the devoted mother, clashed violently. What did saving really mean? She thought of the endless nights spent at the hospital and the quiet fears that crept in while tucking Lily into bed. What if the skills she wielded with precision could falter? The flicker of vulnerability in Lily's gaze felt like a heavy shackle binding Sarah's heart. How to explain her dual existence, the delicate fabric of life and death that was so painfully woven into their lives? That she was doing her best, but that best was often eclipsed by an overwhelming tide of uncertainty. The unsaid fear crawled beneath her usually strong resolve. Could she protect her child and also save others? "Mommy, I just want to know if you can save her." Lily's voice trembled, filled with hope that twisted like a knife. The irony bothered Sarah. The smiles and giggles of her daughter contrasted painfully against the sterile coldness surrounding them. It felt unjust, a weight too disastrous for one to bear. Would she ever have the answers to comfort both the little girl lying in trauma and the one standing before her? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As days dragged on, Sarah poured herself into Mia's case, each moment a desperate scrabble against the sinking feeling that she might not have enough. In the throes of the fight for Mia's life, she formed unexpected connections with Mia's family, fragile threads of shared pain, yet filled with the rawness of hope. With each passing day, Lily sought refuge from the chaos, inadvertently weaving herself into the fabric of a community that illuminated the harsh realities of their existence. Yet the truth continued to unravel itself. Insecurities gnawed at Sarah. Who truly deserved to be saved? Was she strong enough to carry this burden? Her pulse quickened with anxiety as she navigated the blurred line between mothering and healing, flickers of doubts echoing in the shadows of her heart. Little Mia's fight needed her, but so did Lily. As the weight of responsibility loomed larger, an explosive truth hidden in Sarah's past emerged, intertwining her destiny with Mia's family. The moment stretched thin, each heartbeat echoing her desperation. Just when she thought she was gaining ground, Lily's question reverberated hauntingly in her mind. "Can you save her instead of me?" The urgency of the moment crescendoed, pushing Sarah toward an impossible choice, teetering on the brink of deciding who, in a world so unjust, would be worth saving. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, marking the passage of hours like a metronome in a silent symphony. Sarah found solace in the procedural rhythm of her work, a temporary escape from the torment of her thoughts. Yet, buried beneath the layers of scrubs and sterile gloves was a growing anxiety threatening to fracture her resolve. Mia's condition had stabilized but remained precarious, a tightrope walk that left no room for complacency. As she examined Mia's chart, Sarah's gaze drifted to the family huddled in the corner of the waiting room. Their faces told a story of desperation, echoing her own fears as a parent. Each insightful look they cast toward the ER's chaotic center felt charged with a kind of pleading that pierced her deeply. She could see the trembling in Mia's mother's hands, those hands that once cradled the little girl in joy, now twisted in uncertainty. This was a truth she hadn't anticipated. It forced her to confront her own vulnerability as a mother and the penalties of this profession. A bond was forming with Mia's family, however tenuous. She felt their pain entwining with her own, creating an undercurrent that both frightened and empowered her. They knew her name, her face, a beacon of hope in their storm. But in every encounter, Sarah could feel the weight of expectation crushing her spirit. Could she indeed save their daughter, as she had promised in a moment of instinctual empathy? The question dug deeper into her soul as she envisioned Lily waiting at home, the innocent smile she might lose. To the harsh realities of life, the simultaneous tug of motherhood and professionalism had never felt so at odds. Each night at the hospital, faced with challenges more harrowing than the last, Sarah found herself spiraling further into a paradox of identities. During a brief break, she spotted Lily's drawing tucked between the pages of a medical textbook on her desk, a colorful depiction of their family, joined in laughter, unaware of the looming shadows. The innocence on that paper had the ability to pierce through her professional armor, reminding her of the stark truth that lived outside the hospital walls. That night, as she lay awake, Sarah grappled with an unsettling reality. Her profession demanded sacrifices. She had always imagined herself rising to the occasion, but doubts swirled like dark clouds overhead. It was one thing to save lives, but another to face the potential failure of saving the ones you love. Had her dedication pushed her family aside? Could she balance the unbearable weight of expectations thrust onto her, both professional and personal? In the following days, she started paying closer attention to the emotional fabric of those around her. With each small interaction, she looked for chances to authentically connect. Her heart opened by Mia's family's faith in her. She found herself answering their questions with raw honesty, allowing them to glimpse not only her expertise, but also the woman behind the scrubs. This was her own form of saving. By being vulnerable, she began carving a space for her heart amidst the unrelenting pressure. But as her bonds with Mia's family deepened, whispers from somewhere within echoed with renewed urgency. The past she had chosen to bury resurfaced. She recalled a mentor's advice. In the face of calamity, your mind will reveal hidden truths. Embrace them. This was territory she had avoided, believing walking away from certain shadows would shield her from pain. Instead, each revelation drew her closer to understanding the depths of her strength and the necessity of facing the larger battle within her. As she prepared to make a crucial decision regarding treatment options for Mia, a sudden realization overshadowed her thoughts. Saving lives would not solely define her worth. She needed to confront her fears and the intricate dance between her identities. The moment was drawing nearer as Lily's words circled back in her mind, tugging at the very essence of her being. Would she rise to meet the challenge, or would the weight of that choice become her undoing? Just when Sarah thought she might grasp the threads of her existence, a phone call shattered her fleeting peace. The voice on the line was urgent, urging her to return. A twist in Mia's condition had created an unexpected turn, a life hanging in the balance once more. Sarah's heart raced, every beat compounding her need for clarity. The ground beneath her felt unstable as she prepared to face the uncertainties lurking ahead. Would this moment define her forever? The sterile scent of antiseptic filled Sarah's nostrils. As she raced through the corridors, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. Each footfall echoed the uncertainty that loomed over her. She pushed past the double doors leading into the disaster that awaited her, where the frenetic pace of the ER had intensified. A chaos of voices and beeping machines collided into a cacophony, jarring her senses and raising her adrenaline levels. Mia's bed was crowded. Doctors and nurses swarmed, their focused expressions reflecting the gravity of the situation. Time had shrunk around her, exerting pressure like a vice. Just as she stepped closer, a wave of nausea hit her. The sight of the little girl surrounded by monitors made her heartbeat ricochet against her chest. It was not just a child, it was the embodiment of her deepest fears manifesting, a repetition of the fragility she had always danced around. "Sarah!" A colleague's voice yanked her from her thoughts. It was Beth, the nurse who had been with Mia since she first arrived. "We're having trouble stabilizing her. We need your input on the emergency protocol. She could crash at any moment." Just moments before, she had been fixated on her dual responsibilities as a doctor and a mother. Now the urgency of the situation stripped her down to the core of her existence. She was Mia's best chance of survival. The weight of that realization settled upon her shoulders with a mix of dread and determination. Yet the faint echoes of Lily's laughter remained a delicate reminder of what waited at home. "I can't do this," she thought, the tremors of self-doubt shaking her resolve. "Sarah!" Beth's voice cut through the noise again, snapping her back to the present. "We need your decision now." With no time to ponder, Sarah inhaled sharply and refocused, her instinct as a physician kicking in. She approached the array of equipment with authority, squaring her shoulders and pushing aside her fears. The voice of her mentor resonated within her. Embrace the calamity. This was her moment. She could not let the fear of loss paralyze her. She spoke firmly, outlining the steps to stabilize the patient, a rhythm emerging from the chaos. Each decision felt like a lifeline, a bridge connecting her fractured identities. As they worked, the gravity of her situation seeped in, muddling her thoughts every time she glanced at Mia's pale face. A lump lodged in Sarah's throat, urging her to acknowledge the raw vulnerability they all shared. But now wasn't the time for tears. As the cacophony fell silent to her razor-sharp focus on Mia, every heartbeat became a reminder of the urgency. Mia's mother entered the fray, her body trembling. The woman's eyes were pools of fear and hope, searching for anything that resembled assurance. The intensity of their exchange in that small space transcended words. Sarah felt the familiar pull of an unexpected bond, as Mia's mother grasped her arm tightly. Their shared understanding of fear broadened Sarah's perspective, pushing her toward a raw sincerity she hadn't anticipated. "Please, can you save her?" Mia's mother's voice cracked, her helplessness unfurling like a wounded flag. With a mother's empathy surging within her, Sarah found herself unexpectedly vulnerable. "I will do everything in my power." The promise came from a place deep within, igniting something primal, something essential. But just as resolve solidified within her, another voice rose from the background, quiet yet piercing in its frailty. "Can you save her instead of me?" Mia spoke, her small voice breaking in the middle of all the turmoil. The question hung in the air, a testament to innocence confronted with life's complexities. In that moment, Sarah's world tilted again. She was not just fighting for Mia. The weight of the girl's sacrifice forced her to confront her own choices as a mother. How could she justify balancing the life of a child against the love for her own? Caught in the tumult of her conflicting roles, she found herself faced with an unprecedented choice. Would she advocate for Mia's life, risking her own emotional stability? Or would she pull back and make an introspective decision about living her own duality? The battle between professional dedication and maternal instinct reached a fever pitch as everything around her faded into the background once more. The rattle of a tray disrupted her thoughts. It was time to act, and the stakes had never been higher. Would her next move reaffirm her path or redefine her entirely? The answer lay just ahead, tantalizingly out of reach. The room pulsated with a frenetic energy, the urgency of each second transforming into a tangible force. Sarah grasped at her clarity, forcing herself to inhale deeply as every instinct warred within her. She wasn't just a doctor in this moment. She was a mother, tethered to Mia by shared vulnerability. The premature fragility of life danced before them, igniting a fire in her chest that propelled her forward. "Beth," she commanded, her voice steady amidst the storm, "activate the emergency protocol. I need full blood work. Let's get a CT scan on standby. Keep monitoring her vitals closely." Despite the smattering of chaos, a newfound composure settled over her. Channeling her fears, she redirected them into precise actions. Each direction she issued seemed to fortify the resolve within her team. Responsibility suddenly felt like power. She wasn't merely a cog in the system, she was its axis, a position that began to soothe her raging duel of emotions. "Sarah," Beth murmured, surprise filtering across her face as she swiftly followed the orders, "you're taking charge." But Sarah was unaware of her impact. Her focus remained glued to Mia, whose breaths came in shallow intervals. It was almost poetic. In the chaos, Sarah began to recognize the beauty of her capabilities forged in sorrow's furnace. Her mind flitted back to medical school, where she'd felt so out of her depth, so uncertain. Her own self-doubt had been a tangled ball of anxiety back then. Hadn't she avoided the tough decisions, hoping to remain a spectator, rather than truly stepping up? Now was different. As the monitors beeped in an unpredictable rhythm, each sound mirrored her internal conflict. Did she have what it took to save Mia? Did she choose the wrong profession? Had she unwittingly allowed her personal life to be a distraction? She was no longer just measuring the procedures. She was evaluating her very essence as both a physician and a parent. "I won't let you down, sweetheart," she whispered, even as Mia's gaze pierced into her soul, questioning her commitment. The stakes felt insurmountable, a delicate thread between life and death, woven with a child's hopes. Yet, as the chaos swirled, another thought emerged, her daughter, Lily. The vivid visions of her laughter, her ceaseless energy, flooded Sarah's mind, and she wondered if Lily would ever need saving too. Was she prepared to withstand the unbearable notion of losing her? The emotional duality ignited anew, as her innate protective instinct clashed with the demands of her profession. In that moment of clarity and growing tension, she recognized a door she had yet to walk through. The invocation of boundaries, the importance of defining her professional identity without compromising her personal ties. What if she could be both mother and doctor, as courageous as the nurses who worked alongside her? Before she could delve deeper into her thoughts, a commotion erupted at the doorway. It was Dr. Chen, the head of pediatrics, his expression grave. "Sarah, we need to discuss the treatment options. This is complex." "Not now," she snapped, surprising herself with the edge in her voice. "I need to stabilize her before we even think about next steps." Dr. Chen's eyes narrowed, assessing her passion tempered by vulnerability. Something shifted in that exchange, as if he recognized a fire reigniting within her. "All right," he relented, his tone shifting to a more collaborative pitch. "But we need to act swiftly." She felt the weight of his acknowledgement, like an armor against her spiraling apprehensions. "We will save Mia," she affirmed, casting a determined glance to her team. The conviction in her voice left no room for doubt.
Moments bled into each other as they worked, and as Sarah fought for Mia's life, her heart expanded for both the girl before her and the daughter waiting at home. The pressure mounted. Every heartbeat reverberated with urgency. Could she truly align both these identities, navigate the treacherous waters of loss and love? The moment felt electric, charged with her inner reckoning. But as the world spun and the oxygen thinned, a final thought echoed in her mind as she muted the chaos around her. What if saving one life meant sacrificing another, even when both were so precious to her? The dilemma loomed above her like a storm cloud. Where would she find solace amid the tempest? The answer was about to unravel as she steeled herself to confront it head on. Would she dare to find out what her answer truly meant? The alarms continued to echo, pulsing like
the ominous heartbeat of uncertainty. As Sarah directed the chaos, an urgent clarity washed over her, guiding her steps with unwavering purpose. She glanced at Mia, eyes still flickering with fear, although the medical team swarmed around her like bees around a queen. Every clinical maneuver performed felt profoundly personal, as if each stitch and bandage wove together the mother within her with the doctor she had fought so diligently to become. Mia's small, frail body lay on the gurney, and Sarah could feel the weight of every second stretching around them like an eternity. Glimpses of memory flickered past. The late nights spent studying, the sweat of failure she endured during exams, moments where she felt she didn't belong, shuffling among brilliant minds. Was it all meant to culminate in this singular moment of existential crossroad? She had built a safety net of skills intently designed to protect and heal. But could she utilize her training sufficiently to save a life, a child's life, facing potentially catastrophic repercussions? "Mommy!" The sound of Mia's voice broke through to her like a fragile tether, demanding her attention and shattering her concentration. The little girl's eyes glistened, widening with hope and uncertainty. "I'm right here, sweetheart," Sarah soothed, leaning closer, brushing her fingers against Mia's warm head, feeling the soft strands of hair that encircled her face. Mia's smile, although faint, emanated pure innocence. "Will you save me?" The question, simple yet charged, reverberated in Sarah's chest like a drum, echoing the myriad of emotions she had suppressed for so long. So many past fears surged forth, her professional self warring against the visceral instinct of a mother wanting to do everything to protect her child from harm. "Yes," Sarah responded, the certainty in her voice surprising even herself. "I will save you." But the unspoken weight of "at what cost" loomed between them like a fragile dam. As the bloodwork results flashed on the monitor, she felt a momentary flicker of disbelief about the choices she had made thus far in her career. She had chased accolades, driven by the perception of what it meant to be a successful doctor. But now, faced with Mia's vulnerability, Sarah questioned whether she had defined success too narrowly. Was it about recognition, concessions, or about making tangible differences in fragile lives? Her gaze flicked to her hands, steadying the tremor that threatened to betray her resolve. The skills she had so carefully developed weren't just tools, they were part of her identity. Yet something deeper was being unearthed, a relentless drive to find meaning in her actions that transcended the sterile environment of the hospital. "All right," Dr. Chen interrupted her thoughts, stepping forward with a calculated urgency. "We have preliminary results. I need your insight on the immediate intervention plan, Sarah." The moment felt surreal. She was needed, but she was also adrift. For the first time, she realized that collaboration was not just necessary, it was a lifeline. They were not simply colleagues. They were interdependent beings, molded in the crucible of their profession. "I want to modify the treatment plan. We need to prioritize the stabilization first, but I want to approach this from a holistic angle," Sarah proposed, her voice steady and commanding. The revelation that her expertise could marry her nurturing instincts was intoxicating. "Can you elaborate?" Dr. Chan asked, surprise etched on his face. Mia's eyes sparkled with hope, and for the first time, joy met pain in a context that felt undeniably raw and powerful. As Sarah considered her next words carefully, she realized she was no longer confined by the barriers of self-doubt. It was time to embrace both parts of her identity. Could she navigate the duality of being a compassionate caregiver to her patients while being the fierce protector of her own child? The path ahead was treacherous. As the clock counted down, she understood that decisions loomed. A flicker of dread passed through her, a reminder that choices forged in haste before life-altering events could have irreversible implications. But she felt fortified now, drawing on her experience and her growing sense of unity with her team, embracing the chaos instead of running from it. As they prepared to execute the treatment regimen, a chilling thought gripped her. Was she brave enough to ask the questions lodged deep in her psyche? The moment to confront her thoughts felt imminent. She steeled herself, ready to tackle the storm brewing inside her. "Let's discuss what happens next," she said evenly, determination bubbling at the edges. But would she find the courage to lift the veil on her inner turmoil, or would the identity she had frantically stitched together unravel under its weight? The answers began to pulse in her mind, but clarity tasted beyond her reach. The atmosphere in the trauma room thickened, charged with the palpable tension of uncertainty and urgency. As the seconds ticked away, Sarah's mind raced, processing the emerging strategies needed for Mia's treatment while grappling with her own turmoil. The line between her two identities, doctor and mother, wobbled precariously like a tightrope walker amid a storm. "Dr. Chen, we need to focus on pain management first," Sarah asserted, her voice cutting through the whirlwind. "Mia must feel secure and less frightened if we're going to stabilize her condition." The conviction in her tone surfaced from a deep reservoir of instinctual maternal need, blending seamlessly with her clinical judgment. The realization thrilled and terrified her. "All right, I'll adjust the sedation, but we need to act fast," Dr. Chen replied, his expression reverting to clinical focus. The weight of command shifted, and Sarah sensed a shift within herself. She was not only participating, but shaping the response. Observing the medical team spring into action, she felt a swelling confidence. Each member moved with purpose, their training converging into a powerful singularity, a manifestation of collective expertise and trust. In that moment, the realization dawned on her. She had not only a role, but an obligation to assert her perspective without fear of invalidation. "Let's also prep her for an ultrasound. We might need to check for internal issues the blood work won't uncover," Sarah added, infusing her request with newfound assertiveness. To her surprise, nods of agreement came from both Dr. Chen and the attending nurses. As they executed her amended plan, Sarah felt an undercurrent of fear mingle with adrenaline. Each action was a step toward reclamation, not just of her role in this crisis, but of her sense of self. She was crafting an unfolding narrative that fused her professional prowess and emotional depth, recalibrating her definition of success as an integration of both realms. "Mommy, am I okay?" Mia's small voice broke through the tumult, drawing Sarah's gaze outward. The fear shimmering in her daughter's eyes mirrored the turmoil settling in her own heart. "You're going to be okay, sweetheart," Sarah whispered, her hand gently clasping Mia's, seeking to impart warmth and trust. "I'm here, and I won't leave you." Mia's eyes widened, still unsure. What if the invisible line dividing her mother from the doctor became too blurred, leaving Sarah unable to fulfill both roles? Suddenly her thoughts collided. What if her commitment to professionalism meant a sacrifice of genuine emotional connection? Could being the doctor Marta needed me to be crowd out being the mother her spirit craved? The chaos of medical interventions shifted outside her mind, yet internally, Sarah confronted her ambivalence. If she continued to prioritize her career aspirations at the expense of her relationship with Mia, would she become a hollow shell, imbued with accomplishments yet devoid of meaning? A surge of determination coursed through her veins. I need to be both, she realized, feeling the weight of urgency escalate. Her identity couldn't rest solely upon success defined by others. Instead, her journey required forging a path that embraced her dual nature. As treatment proceeded, she paused, catching a breath and scanning the room. Observing her team collaborate illuminated an essential truth. She was one piece in a collective landscape, not the lone architect. "Let's keep communication open and involve everyone in the plan," Sarah instructed, fostering collaboration among her peers. She understood that her strength would rise from unity. There was a bond that emerged from shared intent, a reminder she wasn't alone even in her darkest moments. "All right, I'm ready," she affirmed, discomfort settling into a resolute focus. Yet, even as the voices around her reconvened, anxiety laced with anticipation crept back in. Her past actions had set the stage for this moment. What lay beyond this crisis? Would she embrace the beckoning opportunity to redefine herself, or would she falter, retreating to the shadows of doubt? As she shifted her gaze to Mia, the little girl's yearning for her mother's reassurance ignited a profound reckoning within. The next decision loomed ahead, weighing heavily on her heart. How could she balance the intricate dance between vulnerability and strength when the stakes had never been higher? With her resolve crystallizing, moment of truth began to unfold. Was she prepared to confront the consequences of her past choices and their echoing impact on the future? The minutes dragged on, each tick of the clock amplifying the tension in Sarah's chest. Mia's small hand nestled in her own felt frail and warm, an anchor in an ocean of chaos. The trauma room, humming with the sounds of beeping monitors and urgent voices, faded into a blur as Sarah focused on the intimate connection between mother and child. "Mia, listen," she said, leaning closer, mindful of her voice. "I'm right here. I promise I'll do everything I can to help you." But doubt began creeping in again. Would her presence as a mother eventually conflict with her role as a physician? Could those identities coexist without jeopardizing her ability to be effective in both? In the depths of her mind, a scenario played out, her daughter, frightened and alone, waiting for reassurance while she was preoccupied with the medical minutiae. Sarah had always excelled in her career, trained to detach emotionally from cases, yet here she found herself caught in the crossfire of devotion and professional duty. As an ultrasound technician entered, Sarah felt a flicker of anxiety. Were they about to reveal something more serious? She took a steadying breath and focused on the task ahead, understanding that clarity could only come through decisive action. "Start the ultrasound," she instructed, her voice gaining strength as she recalled the importance of vigilance in these crucial moments. Each heartbeat echoed the urgency to maintain both roles, the nurturing mother and the steadfast physician. The technician moved quickly, but Sarah's mind raced with potential outcomes. What had she overlooked? Would she recognize any signs of distress on her daughter's face? Every image on the screen threatened to dissolve her composure. Vivid memories of countless other patients flooded her psyche, but this time it was different. This was Mia. When the ultrasound images began to populate the screen, Sarah's heart dropped. She could see the turmoil reflected in those shadows, evidence of her daughter's strife laid bare. The fear tangled with an unsettling resolve. This was her moment to prove, not just to others, but to herself, that she could wear both hats without losing her grip. "Can I see?" Mia's small voice cracked through the tumult, yet tinged with willful curiosity. Sarah turned to her, momentarily caught off guard by the question. It was a reminder of how much her daughter needed her, not just as a doctor, but as a mother who could instill a sense of safety and confidence. Of course, Sarah adjusted her position to frame the monitor in such a way that Mia could see, doing her best to make it a shared moment without overwhelming her.
Through the haze of uncertainty, a surprising clarity emerged as Mia's gaze fixed on the screen. "Will you make me better?" she asked, innocence threading through every word. "Absolutely," Sarah replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "But—"
Beneath her resolve lingered a deeper question. Would she only be able to help her recover physically, or could she also heal the rift that had formed between them due to her ambitions? As the technician completed the ultrasound, Sarah noticed the looks of concern exchanged between her colleagues. Her chest tightened. Validating their worry meant facing her own demons. Had she chosen being a doctor over being a mother too often? If she couldn't hit the balance, would she further alienate the very heart that gave her life purpose? "Dr. Chen, what's next?" she asked, trying to shield her vulnerability with full focus on the task at hand. As fear of losing Mia loomed larger in her heart, Sarah resolved that resolution would not come through mere whispers of reassurance. It demanded action. Suddenly, Mia's question echoed again in her mind, amplifying the growing urgency of the moment as the door swung open. In walked another team member, concern evident on their face, holding a file that could change everything. "Dr. Lee, we have results," they announced breathlessly. The air grew thicker, punctuated by unspoken possibility, and Sarah felt her pulse quicken in every sense. Would this be the information that could fracture her world, or the key that might allow her to integrate the identities that had begun to feel so at odds? The results awaited, their implications looming ominously. As the moment of truth drew closer, Sarah prepared to confront the intricate threads of her professional life and personal love. Was she truly ready to face whatever lay beyond? The file trembled slightly in the nurse's hands as she stepped forward, eyes locked on Sarah. Every second felt like an eternity, the air thick with the weight of what lay ahead. "Dr. Lee, the results," the nurse managed, her voice wavering, breaking the tension like a thin veil. Sarah's breath hitched, and she felt the ground shift beneath her. The unknown had always whispered quickened fears into her ear, and now it roared. "Mia," Sarah said softly, turning to her daughter, whose face mirrored the uncertainty lingering in the room. "Stay focused on me, okay?" Sarah tightened her grip. She was here to serve Mia. Her heart swelled with resolve, even as her world threatened to tilt dangerously. "Can you tell me what it is?" Sarah pressed, her professional instinct sharpening. The roles were shifting, and she was determined to remain a fierce advocate for her daughter. The nurse hesitated, adopting an expression of sympathy that only hastened Sarah's racing thoughts. "There's a complication with Mia's condition. We need to discuss some options moving forward." Every word pressed against her chest, a relentless weight tugging her deeper into dread. She couldn't let herself spiral now. Determination surged within her to rise above this. "Let's talk," Sarah said, her voice steadying as she extinguished the impulse to indulge in panic. It was a revelation of her own. She could choose to lean into it. Her professional expertise and shield her daughter from her fears. The nurse motioned to a corner of the room where a small table awaited with clinical charts and graphs. Sarah's mind buzzed wildly, absorbing every detail as she moved toward it, Mia's hand still clasped in hers. The separation of her dual identity was burgeoning, each foray into responsible decision-making forcing her to confront the chasm between motherhood and medicine. "What does this mean for her?" Sarah asked, voice low but resolute, leaning over the table to examine the data that could dictate Mia's future. The numbers looked stark, a language of their own that she had been trained to understand, yet they presented a riddle when tangled with maternal fear. "Essentially, we're dealing with a few possible outcomes. We need to act quickly, which is why I wanted to present this to you immediately." The nurse's seriousness cut through the haze surrounding them, compelling Sarah to focus. In that moment, clarity began to emerge. Each outcome forced her hand, challenging her to examine which path would balance her medical knowledge with her instinctive need to protect Mia. She could feel the rooms in her mind filling with potential strategies and contingencies. "Tell me about the options," Sarah directed, her voice firm. This time she was not merely a bystander in Mia's medical journey. She was the navigator. She needed to understand this labyrinth of choices, the intersections leading to resolutions both personal and professional. As the nurse began outlining the treatment plans and possible interventions, Sarah's mind sparked with old memories. Times she had fought for her patients, the adrenaline that coursed through her when the stakes were highest. Her instincts sharpened. She felt a familiar fire refine her focus. "Mia, I need you to hear me." Sarah turned to her daughter again, lifting her chin with a gentle finger. "We're going to work through this together. I will not let anything come between us. I promise." Mia's nod broke through Sarah's internal chaos, grounding her. The commitment ignited something powerful within her. It was both a pledge as a mother and an assertion as a physician. The conversation became an intricate dance of information and emotion, an amalgamation of her dual identities. As they discussed steps forward, Sarah noticed Mia's small frown, a signal that the emotional weight of the situation was settling heavy on her young heart. "It's okay to be scared," Sarah reminded her, her voice soothing. "But don't forget, we're in this together." The truth hit Sarah like a wave. She had devoted years to understanding pain, both physical and emotional. It was time to wield that knowledge with a deeper sense of purpose, both as a doctor and a mother. As they wrapped up the meeting, one thing was clear. Her commitment had to extend beyond her clinical responsibilities. She needed active participation in both roles, collaborating to navigate this uncharted territory. "Dr. Lee," the nurse prompted, recapturing Sarah's attention with the weight of her next words. "This is going to be a long journey." Sarah squared her shoulders, resolute, ready to embrace the hardships ahead, determined to forge a bond that would withstand the trials of the medical world and the ferocity of motherhood. "Then let's begin," she replied, each syllable a silent affirmation of her commitment to both her daughter and her career. As they exited the room, a new resolve settled in Sarah's heart, a steady flame ready to burn bright amidst the uncertainty. Yet, as she glanced at Mia, a chilling question lingered in the back of her mind. Was she truly prepared for the sacrifices that lay ahead, especially when faced with choices that could threaten her very relationship with Mia? The weight of potential decisions hung heavily. They were intertwined with passion, fear, and love, a fractal echo of her previous life. But one thing was becoming increasingly clear. Balance was not merely a goal, but an intrinsic part of her evolution. When would the next challenge arise to test her will, and would it forge deeper fractures or pave the way for undeniable resilience? The days blurred into a symphony of emotional highs and lows, each moment a staggering reminder of the fragile balance between her duties as a physician and the piercing vulnerability of motherhood. Every evening, Sarah found herself retreating into her quiet study, her refuge from the whirlwind of consultations, treatment options, and heavy discussions about Mia's health. The walls of her home had transitioned from nurturing to suffocating, the weight of potential decisions pressing down harder with each tick of the clock. She pulled the books from the shelves, leafing through pages that had once brought her comfort and knowledge. Yet now they felt like relics of a simpler time. They lacked the practical application she was desperate for, the kind of wisdom that could extract a promise of safety for Mia. She caught glimpses of Mia's small form, usually lost in a world of children's books or quietly sketching at her art table. The innocence of her youth contrasting sharply with the turbulent storm brewing in Sarah's heart. It struck her that she needed to change the narrative, not only for her daughter, but for herself. She had always thrived on empowering her patients, guiding them through treacherous waters, but now those skills were tangled with the primal fear of a mother. That night, the weighty atmosphere in her study catalyzed a resolve deeper than she had ever known. She began crafting a plan, an exhaustive review of the options laid out by the nurse, enriched with insights from her professional network. Hours flew by as she pulled articles and research studies. Each line she read illuminated pathways not only for Mia's treatment, but also for her own emotional resilience. As dawn fractured the darkness, a glint of hope threaded through her exhaustion. Here was her chance to reclaim agency. Sarah realized the healing process wasn't just about the decisions made in sterile rooms. It was also about creating an environment of strength, hope, and love at home. With renewed determination, she approached Mia one morning, who was tracing her fingers along the edges of a drawing. "I have an idea," Sarah said, her voice steady, brimming with enthusiasm. "How about we work together on a project? Something that can help you express how you're feeling through art." Mia looked up, eyes wide and glistening with interest. Like what? The cautious hope in her voice mirrored Sarah's internal journey, a tentative connection sparking between them. "Let's create a storybook," Sarah suggested, "where you can be the hero, navigating through challenges and finding ways to overcome them." As she spoke, ideas flowed like water. This wasn't just about coping. It was becoming a channel for their emotions, a canvas to articulate the unspeakable fears while simultaneously seizing control of Mia's narrative. Over the coming days, their project flourished. Each illustration reflected their shared experiences. Laughter, tears, and moments of quiet understanding were smudged beneath the colors of pastel crayons. They forged an unbreakable bond through art, bringing both healing and clarity to the uncertainties that clouded their lives. Yet, despite this progress, shadows of doubt crept in, lurking at the edges of Sarah's mind. Was their newfound activity merely a distraction? Would immersing herself in creativity siphon away the necessary focus she needed to ensure Mia received the best medical care? Then, while sketching their hero's journey, Mia asked a question that sent chills racing down Sarah's spine. "What if you can't save me, Mommy? What if the doctor says you can't help me like you do other kids?" The room felt constricted in that instant. Sarah's heart hammered against her chest, a dramatic juxtaposition to the safe warmth of their shared endeavor. She gathered her thoughts, searching for the right reassurance, weighing every word as if she were addressing a patient. "Sweetheart, we are going to fight this together, and we'll explore every option. You are my little warrior, and just like in our story, we will find a way." That moment cemented a new purpose in her. It wasn't merely about the fight against illness. It was about equipping Mia with the tools to confront life's uncertainties, to build resilience. But as Sarah lay in bed that night, wrestling with tangled thoughts, a rising question echoed in the silence. Was their creativity enough to equip Mia for the battles ahead? What if the choices Sarah had to make would eventually lead to parts of their bond being irreparably altered? With that gnawing uncertainty whispering like a ghost, Sarah closed her eyes. The fight was far from over. The next steps would demand more than she had prepared for. The stakes were climbing, and soon she would need critical resolve to confront the very fabric of her realities. What would she discover about her limits and her child's needs when faced with the hardest decisions of all? In the days that followed, the atmosphere shifted between Sarah and Mia, each moment saturated with the gravity of uncertainty and resolution. Sarah embraced the dual challenge of nurturing her daughter through art while ensuring that every decision in the hospital was made with clarity and unwavering purpose. She encouraged Mia to express herself. Through illustrations and storytelling, they tackled the complex emotions tangled in their reality. The book they created, titled Mia the Brave, became a repository of their hopes and fears. Page after page was filled with vibrant characters that mirrored their journey, from dragons representing their battles to knights who showcased the resiliency they yearned to embody. It was healing packaged in creativity, a release that reinforced their relationship rather than fracture it. Yet beneath her maternal instincts lay the quicksand of anxiety. The looming reality of medical results gnawed at Sarah, often robbing her of sleep. Every ring of her phone sent her heart racing, feeding an incessant cycle of worry. Would she encounter more complications? Would the choice between professional duty and maternal instinct become unfathomably complex? The turning point came when Dr. Chen approached Sarah regarding Mia's treatment options. "We've exhausted non-invasive methods. It's time. Surgery may be necessary," he asserted, urgency ringing through his voice. In response, the cacophony of emotions swirled within her. Here presented an unimaginable conflict that transcended her dual existence as a doctor and a mother. The weight of the decision bore down on her. Was she prepared to witness her child undergo surgery? Could she maintain the safety of a mother while walking the tightrope of clinical judgment? On the day of the procedure, Sarah stood outside the operating room, words from her mentor echoing in her mind. A doctor is only as strong as their willingness to face the unknown. This was her moment to confront the terrifying truth eye to eye. As she donned her scrubs, her fear transmuted into quiet determination. The nurse arrived with fresh data on Mia's health, and as they reviewed the plan, Sarah's confidence surged. "We need a comprehensive post-op care strategy, including psychological support. This won't just be a medical journey, it's emotional," she insisted. Mia's surgery commenced, the sterile rooms revealing their harsh realities. As Dr. Chen's voice punctuated the air in procedural discussions, Sarah felt the heaviness lift ever so slightly. Amidst chaos, she learned to navigate her life's intersecting paths. With every step forward, she recognized that she could be both, fully devoted to her child while deploying her medical acumen. When the surgery concluded, the tension released into profound relief. Mia was stable, and as Sarah held her daughter's small hand, their love became an unbreakable tether amidst the uncertainties. "Mommy," Mia's weak voice pierced through the veil of exhaustion, "did I do it? Am I still brave?" "More than you know, sweetheart. We are brave together," Sarah replied, fighting back tears. In that moment, everything clicked. Her resolve was not simply a profession, but a profound commitment to being a guide for Mia in navigating uncertainty. With time, Mia recovered, but the journey was only beginning. Sarah focused on integrating the lessons they learned through their art into daily life. They crafted evenings filled with stories that transcended medical jargon, layers of healing enveloping them. Months passed, and on a bright autumn day, Sarah stood before a room full of colleagues, discussing Mia's case and advocating for changes in pediatrics that would highlight the essential role of emotional care in conjunction with medical treatment. Holistic care must include understanding the child's emotional state, Sarah argued passionately, newfound confidence coursing through her. Patients are not defined solely by their diagnoses. They are vibrant souls deserving of validation and creativity. Feedback came swift and robust. Peers nodded in agreement, inspired by Sarah's fusion of heart and intellect. Her voice was no longer just the voice of a physician. It became the voice of a mother who had faced the depths of fear and chosen to rise amidst the chaos. She understood that her journey was not isolated. Recognition poured in from other departments, each commendation feeding her unwavering fire to advocate for not just Mia, but all vulnerable children. She provided workshops on emotional expression through art, guided by her experience. The more she spoke, the more she embodied the transformative strength she had cultivated through adversity. Amid all this, the weight of those early days began to lift. Sarah understood that saving a life was multidimensional. Her successes were woven into the fabric of her dual existence. She found herself genuinely relishing moments with Mia, captured in laughter and storytelling, as they continued to build their legacy of resilience. This is just the beginning, Sarah thought, feeling her experience become an intrinsic part of who she had become. A bridge between medicine and emotional healing. No longer did she feel torn. She was whole, a testament to both her daughter's courage and her ability to lead boldly. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the world in hues of gold and crimson, Sarah turned to Mia, who sprawled on the floor, sketching yet another rendition of their beloved characters. "Look, Mommy, they're embarking on a new adventure," Mia exclaimed, brightness illuminating her features. And in that radiant moment, Sarah saw the culmination of their journey reflected in her daughter's joy. Her mastery over the art of choosing love, hope, and determination even amidst uncertainty. She knew she was equipped to continue this new fight, not just for Mia, but for every child whose voice deserved to be heard. Sarah was more than a nurse, more than a mother. She was a beacon of hope, a warrior reshaping destinies through vulnerability and empathy. A true advocate for the lives she connected with, forever committed to transforming the narrative of what it meant to heal. As she watched Mia's joy unfold, she felt that profound satisfaction, the achievement of true integration between both her professional and personal lives. Now it was time to forge ahead, never backtracking upon her past choices, bold in pursuing the future that awaited her. Join her journey, discover
the emotional power that believes you too can conquer your own challenges. Don't wait another second. Your moment begins today to embrace your own transformation. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Show your support. It's the moment to elevate our stories of overcoming together.